Sure. And so to the degree I want to carry these stinking potatoes around, you
Hmm.
can. But you meet people sometimes, especially our age, that have been carrying these around so long, it becomes who they are. Their whole life, whenever they open their mouth, it's some resentment, it's some hurt, it's some type of anger, and it's a practice. The more you resent, the better you get at it. Then
Oh
you
my God, totally.
new info, new tragedies, new trauma, new situations come into your life, and you jump right on it. And your whole life becomes the identity of the one who has been hurt. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host, and special guest from the BRG, Jiva G Life Coaching.
Very well.
Welcome to the show. It is March 21st, 2025. This is episode 1561. 1560. It's 1560. Welcome to the show. Here live with Jiva G. And greetings, Jiva. Good to see you. Filling in for
Good to see
Kastuba,
you
who's
too.
in transit.
Those are mighty big shoes to fit.
Those are
how do you
big.
say it?
Those are big Birkenstocks to fit into. Kastuba's not here. This is a special show today. This is the forgiveness episode.
Oh yeah.
And we're going to dive into this. It sort of culminates. We're at the end of the story of King Ambarīṣa. But before we go on, I'm here with Miss Mara, lovely Miss Mara. Any announcements, dear?
Yes, it's Tell a Friend Friday.
Tell a friend.
Yeah, so check out our Sage community platform and share our new video promoting Wisdom of the Sages. Please like it, share it on social media to help spread the word about our amazing community. And also tomorrow is our Q&A day. The show will be at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. If you have a question you want answered, supporting members can post the question under the Questions for the Host tab in the community chat. And if you're not a member, you can email us at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com.
Now, is it at 8 o'clock tomorrow or 7 o'clock?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Show's at 8 o'clock tomorrow. I want to thank Jiva for stepping in. It's very timely that Jiva's here for this, the wrap up of this chapter, because this is one of her specialties. But before I get into that, I just want to say October 29th to November 11th, it's Pilgrimage to Sacred Cities with me, doing my annual pilgrimage. If you're interested, go to raghu.pilgrimage@gmail.com. Also, I want to announce that Super Soul Farm, besides Wisdom of the Sages retreat, Memorial Day weekend, me and Miss Lori Pag are doing a yoga retreat, and that is happening at Super Soul Farm. We're doing asanas, we're doing kirtan, we're doing great vegetarian food, we're doing yoga workshops, we're doing satsangs. So if you want to get out, Miss Mara is going to put the date for Lori Pag's workshop on the board.
It's July 18th through July 20th.
July 18th through the 20th. And you can reach out to Lori. Lori's on the show today. Lori, why don't you just put your contact up on the message board if you're interested? But we'd love to have you if you want to. And she's a master yoga teacher and incredibly beloved in Newport, Rhode Island, and wherever she goes. So I'm looking forward to doing our second annual one, Lori. This is really cool.
I think it might be your third.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it is your third.
Yeah.
I love working with Lori or just doing anything with Lori. And also, I just found out we're going to do another book signing / yoga class in Cologne, Germany. So right now we got Berlin going on. We've got Amsterdam going on for book signing yoga classes. We got Leipzig going on. And we got Gothenburg going on. So looking forward to seeing everybody the Shelter European Tour. Come for the show. Come for the book signing. But just come and say hi. And those are looking really good. I talked to Sammy yesterday, and all the shows are selling out. Yeah. Well, it's not like it's the Staples Coliseum. But even though, here's the deal. If you got 300 people or 500 people in the Staples Coliseum, it seems miserable. But you got a club that holds 400 and you get 600 people wanting tickets. You feel like you are, Oasis or, How are you, Jiva G?
I'm good, actually. I woke up pretty early today and went for my walk. And by the way, I did another shorty. It's been published already. I'm so sorry. I apologize to everyone that I was in India. So,
Okay. So that's the
I'm back.
Bhakti Recovery Podcast. And you can get that wherever you get podcasts. And she does these short ones called shorties. And sometimes she does regular long ones or interviews, etc.
Exactly.
And if you're unfamiliar with 12 steps, it goes hand in hand with our Bhakti practice. And one of the big things is because when you deal with addiction, you deal with self-absorption because you need your needs met first at everybody else's expense. So because of that, you tend to step on a lot of toes. And you see people, it's interesting, like you develop a lot of anger towards other people, and you can you explain why resentment goes so intimately with addictive behavior? Why do we get resentment if we're addicts? So if we're stepping on everybody else's toes, it seems like we should be a little bit more open to other people stepping on our toes. Why is resentment such a huge part of addictive behavior? And how can we sort of notice it in ourselves?
That's a really good question. I think you say it all the time too. Hurt people hurt people. Basically, this world is like a carnival of mirrors. And whatever it is that's happening, often as an addict, I can only speak for myself, but and it's a common denominator in most of us. Often it's so much easier to blame other people for the situations that we're in, because when we're in our illusion, in our using illusion, like if we're in our disease, that's what we call it. If we're in our disease, it's like it's everyone's fault, and we get into this victim mentality. And it's really easy, actually, for addicts. It's really easy to kind of get into that like, well, if you didn't do this, I wouldn't have to do that. And if you didn't,
you could blame people for your addiction.
Oh, absolutely.
It's because
like,
of you, I'm like this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you didn't, if you weren't such a jerk to me, I wouldn't have had to punch you, like those kind of.
It relinquishes all personal responsibility.
Absolutely. And we're very master at not taking it for many reasons. Some people were really shamed and blamed their whole life. And at some point they just had to turn around. But see, under all of that, and this is something that, and this is when you said, this is what I truly believe, under all of that, under all those jackets we wear, under all those conditionings we have, under all of that, there's just this wonderful part and parcel of Krishna. And so all of these things, and especially resentment, because it's one that we say in a program that it's the number one offender, especially those things, those will distract us from what we really are. And it will give us, an absolute stage for hate, for acting out, all kinds of things. Our ability to forgive is really just a mirror of our compassion for others. And the compassion that we have for others, it's like, it's being empath, to have empathy for other people, not sympathy, empathy for others, to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Before I want to cop a resentment, I'd have to ask myself today, Jiva, put yourself in this person's shoes. Have the foresight to be able to say, what could I possibly be wrong in this situation? Or could I possibly have a part in this situation? It's not just an easy thing. If we're inclined to just forgive someone just like that, then that's great. But if we're not, there needs to be some detangling along the way. And part of that is seeing our side. keeping our side of the street clean, seeing our side of things, and also having compassion for the other people. You know?
Sure. If you were to look at it like a pie, a pie chart, and you put like, this is where I went wrong, and this is where they went wrong. Generally,
yeah.
we
And they
our
did like
our
3%.
our went wrong looks like a thin sliver, and their wrong looks like
Yeah.
mostly the entire pie.
Yeah.
And the
totally.
interesting thing is, in self-reflection and talking it through and seeing it from so many different angles, generally our pie is a little bigger. That doesn't mean we can't be victimatized, because we will be victims at one point.
Well, we're
But will I
powerless
be
over people, places, and things.
Sure,
We're
sure.
powerless over that. Sure.
But will I be victims more than once? And this is where we're going to talk
Yes.
about resentment today too. Will I be victims? Will I carry that victimhood with me every day of my life, so I can't move forward?
Exactly.
So I wanted to start off with a simple analogy, because we tend to think, I'm letting this guy off the hook, and this guy, like, this justice must be done. I cannot let this guy off the hook. But oftentimes we're letting the real idea with forgiveness is we're letting ourselves off the hook. We are letting ourselves off, because here's a great exercise. You take one empty bag and you take one bag of old potatoes, okay? And I want you to write everybody that's harmed you, hurt you, betrayed you, robbed you, traumatized you, done you wrong. Write their name on that potato with a big Sharpie marker. When they did it, they did this when I was only 5 years old. What could I have done? They did this when I was 11 years old. That bully kicked my butt when I was 12 years old. These people humiliated me, at a certain age. And for everyone you're holding on to, and you got to really do this. This is a real actual exercise. You put it in the bag, the clear plastic bag. And when you dig deep, you'll realize, God, I'm holding on to this too. And then you just carry that bag with you. And to the degree that you have resentment, that bag is heavy. And just to carry that bag for an hour or 5, it's a pain in the neck to carry that bag. And
nice. I like that.
If you hold on to it, the more you hold on to it, and the older that potato is, right? It starts to stink. And that becomes me. I become a person who's living in this pain and this resentment. Now, we talk about this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But and so for us, if you were to come to me and just complain about people who have harmed you, we almost have like this accountability thing where we don't play that game. We don't play the victim game. We don't play the harm game.
It says
if anything,
we don't co-sign each other's BS.
We don't co-sign each other's BS. Exactly. If I was to say, yeah, Mara's done me so wrong, she did A, B, C, and D, you would be just like, well, you'd start to question me and my behavior. And
well, yeah, because I'm working with you and you're working with me. And this is the thing. It's like, there's going to be 100 people doing something. This is something that it's been such an amazing 3 months in India. And this is a deeper lesson that I've learned. And we'll talk about that afterwards, though. But it has a lot to do with this.
Sure. And so to the degree I want to carry these stinking potatoes around, you can. But you meet people sometimes, especially our age, that have been carrying these around so long, it becomes who they are. Their whole life, whenever they open their mouth, it's some resentment, it's some hurt, it's some type of anger, and it's a practice. The more you resent, the better you get at it. Then new info, new tragedies, new trauma, new situations come into your life, and you jump right on it. And your whole life becomes the identity of the one who has been hurt. And so it brings up this interesting point is like, what are we trying to get from them? It's like they've harmed me, they've hurt me, they've traumatized me, they've stolen from me, they've cheated me out of money, they've evicted me, right? They humiliated me. They took the best years of my life, right? They took my narrative and told everybody else their crazy narrative, right? They ruined my family. They ruined my family holidays. There's a long list of complaints that I can revel in. It's like keeping those potatoes in that bag and tying it tighter as they just get stinkier and
And
stinkier as I
stinkier.
keep replaying this story. And the problem with it
mean-
is,
Oh, go ahead.
what could they do to make it up for you? Could you go, if they said, okay, I want to take back that trauma when you were a child. I want to take back that abuse. I want to take back that time I humiliated you. They actually can't repay that debt. Even if they wanted to, they can't repay it. There's only one thing I can do, and that's to pardon the debt. I have to become the one who pardons that debt.
Yes, but there's a practice in that, because in our program, when we say, well, first of all, we say that having resentment is drinking poison and expecting the other one to die. This is kind of what we're doing. But the thing is by being able to forgive someone else, we ask for forgiveness for our things. When we go and we make our amends, and sometimes those amends are accepted and sometimes they're not. Sometimes, and it is one of the most humiliating things in the world to have someone on your ninth step, on the 8-step list. Someone you have to go to make amends to.
Talking regular speak. Don't
Okay,
talk in 12-step speak.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're right. So on the 8th step is we make a list of all persons we had harmed, and we became willing to make amends to them. And on the 9th step is we make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. So the thing about that is this: when we show up and we look, and we've done our program until then, we've done everything that we had to do and to get to that point, because it is a process. And we have enough, let's say, colignos to get up and go and tell that person, I'm sorry for what I did. And not only just tell them, it's not lip service. If you stole money, you give that money back. You know, like a lot of addicts, I've heard so many of my sponsees, I've had so many sponsees through the years. I mean, all of us have in the program. And I've had sponsees stealing like medication from their dying relatives, you know, for drugs. And now they're, you know, and then now they're dead and they can't do anything. So I said, what did they die from? Oh, cancer. I said, well, great. Then donate the money that it's worth that you stole of those tablets and donate it to a cancer society. That's a living amends. Sometimes you can't make those amends. Sometimes you can do it in other ways. So it's really important. In order to get forgiveness, we need to ask for forgiveness. That is the most important thing.
Some people say things like, well, I just can't forgive. And it's just too big of an Everest peak to climb. But in the same way, resentment is a practice. Forgiveness is a practice. And that's what I like. And of course, working with a person, working with a sponsor, working with a devotee, working with a friend, working with a therapist. These are big things. These are big things. And I especially like you on the podcast, because sometimes they say, well, you should get a really trained professional. You don't get more trained professional than Jiva G, who deals with the dirt of people's life, or anybody who has been working a 12-step program very seriously and working with sponsees very seriously, because it's not, and although I have great respect for therapy, oftentimes people go to therapy once a week, maybe twice a week for 50 minutes. And even sometimes when because I've been in therapy when you're in the midst of tragedy, and like, it's 50 minutes, time is up. And it's like,
what? What?
And I've also worked with 12-step counselor who have been like, okay, you need to call me every day. You're going through this right now. You got to call me every day. And you could, you know, and make yourself available to be, you know, pre-text message and things like that. Super powerful stuff. And so I appreciate that you're here, because these things are monumental in terms of our Krishna consciousness. And sometimes they're not spoken about. Very easily in religions, we can go on with an outfit, a presentation, and not clean out the drain. If my sink is really clean, but the drain is clogged, it's going to be useless moving forward, washing the dishes.
Absolutely.
Our mantras will hit a wall. Our mantras will hit a wall unless I can start plunging this sink of my deep woven resentments.
You know, Raghu, this is an incredible, a really great analogy of that. And I really have to say that 12 steps is not just for addicts and alcoholics. On the contrary, the whole world would need a 12-step program. Anybody can benefit highly from a 12-step program. Now, the thing is when you were talking about like, it's so hard, I just can't forgive. The thing is, in Bhakti and in the 12 steps, we have to want to. That's the beginning. Krishna will take care of it. Look, in the 6th and the 7th step is we become willing to have God remove these defects of character. We become willing. What does that mean? We have to be willing. We can't just say like, okay, and what does willingness mean? It doesn't mean like, I wish I had $1,000. You know, it's not about that. It's like, what are we going to do to it? Willingness comes with action, footwork. When you're really willing, you're going to do that footwork. And in the 7th step, we ask God to remove these shortcomings. We ask God to do it because we can't do it ourselves. So if we can't forgive, are we willing to forgive? Are we even willing to be willing to forgive? Are we willing to be willing to be willing to forgive? And if we're willing, then those things will go. And it won't be sometimes, I want to forgive now, but that's my watch. It's not Krishna's watch. That's my watch.
I like that. I like that. You know, I do have this thing where I feel like, well, I forgive them and I'm prayed for them. But it pops up again. How do you deal with sort of you pushing down this person? I'm going to let go of that resentment. But then it manifests again a month later or 3 months later. How do you fully forgive? Is that also a practice? I want it to be a light switch where now the light is off. Now the light is on. Okay, we can't have that light on. I got to turn it off. How do you make it so you can actually 100% turn that off? Especially when things are very traumatic and they keep reappearing, they keep surfacing.
Well, basically, why we're going through this process of the whole of asking for forgiveness, of asking for forgiveness. First of all, during that whole process, we have to turn that around on the other person. The most important thing about forgiveness, very important thing is having some compassion for the other person, and it's not something that we can look. When I know my husband's not going to, my ex-husband is not going to listen to this. So I'm going to just feel free to talk about this now.
Okay.
You know, I'm not going to.
He's actually live on Zoom right now.
I'd say hi and he'd be okay with this actually. But, you know, him and I were both very alpha and a lot of damage was done. We're very, very strong people. I feel that we were talking about the pie. When I made amends to him, it was the most difficult thing. I made amends with him owing me 80 grand and not wanting to give it back to me. And there was a lot of resentment there and a lot of years, 17 years of resentment. But by me constantly doing my work, not his work, not taking his inventory, taking my inventory. Because
I love that, right? Not taking his inventory, because in the world of justice, here's where he went wrong. A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yes.
Right? But so in the world of justice, I'm seeing everything he did wrong. Here is his rap sheet. And you're saying you're flipping it. You're not taking his inventory. I'm taking mine. Your inventory. Okay,
and I've done that in the 4th step. I've taken a moral, searching and fearless moral inventory of myself. And then I've shared that with another human being and God and myself. I see where I went wrong and I see the wrongs that I've done. You know, we're just focusing on the human interactions. How many bugs have I stepped on? How many mosquitoes have I killed? How many things have I done without even knowing? How many sins have I committed? How many things have I done?
But you're saying, okay, because I freaking sprayed a wasp nest, it's okay for me to lose $80,000? For someone walking into the podcast right now, it's like, give me a break. This guy's ripping us off, or maybe this guy ripped you off, or maybe a person's cheating person on a regular basis. Why forgive them? Like, why can't there be justice? People are going to say, why shouldn't there be justice? Why forgive and just play, oh, I've stepped on an ant, so you just walk all over me? How do you protect yourself?
We walk forward and we ask them again and again. It's like I said, are you ever going to pay me back? You know, or is it ever going to happen? And, you know, he was like, well, I don't see it that way and blah, blah, blah. And we had to take time. It was a 10-year process of all of this. He paid me back every single cent, and not because I bothered him. It's because he's working a program and he did his inventory and he didn't feel right with it and he paid me back. But before that, I made my amends to him.
Nice. Well, it's nice when two people are on the same page. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Have you ever apologized to someone and they're just like,
oh, yeah.
Yes,
Hell yeah.
and they just won't accept the apology. So,
my mother right now, is not willing. My mother is not willing to have a talk.
Well, you know what? Let's bring her on the show right now. She's here right now in the audience. Just kidding.
No. So, but these are the things, and this is the thing that I have to work on. If someone's not willing to forgive me, how many times was I resentful to someone else? I get exactly what I get. Now, I can put myself in that victim mentality or not. But so what is the magic wand? This is what you're asking. What's the magic wand? How can I just all of a sudden forgive somebody? There is no freaking magic wand. That's it. There's no magic wand. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's not easy. But it's easier when we're working a program, and it's easier that we're in a sacred sangha with each other, learning from each other, hearing other people's stories about how they forgive, listening and being open to that, wanting to, having the wish, and then waiting. Perhaps Krishna will have mercy on us. This is something, you know, I've made many apologies. I've made many mistakes. I'll keep making mistakes, and I'll probably have to keep apologizing. I think you know, Raghu, how many times I've apologized, and how many times, I mean, there have been times where you've called me on my BS, and I'm quick to apologize. But not because I want to apologize, not to you, but I mean, with other situations where you're like, hey, Jiva, that's not okay. Don't do that, you know? And I just kind of go, okay, you know, at some point I'm willing to look at that.
Well, you've locked into your brain, and this is a practice, and I don't think it, quote, comes natural, but you've locked in your brain that being self-reflective, being apologetic when you've been off is an important thing to your serenity. Otherwise, the justice part of your mind cheats you out of your serenity, cheats you out of your peace, cheats you out of your well-being. We die with this anger inside our hearts, and it kills us.
You know, the thing is, and often resentments, let's go into the codependent field now. Resentments are because of my lack of boundaries. That's a resentment. And if I don't have healthy boundaries, you know, actually Nancy always says this, Nancy Rothman. And
Nancy?
Yeah, she always says, say what you mean what you say, and don't say it mean. And
okay, let's say that again. Got that, Mara?
Say what you mean
what you say.
Mean what you say, but don't say it mean. I mean, I know this also from the program, but she said this a lot, and I love that reminder, because, you know, I can say what I mean, and I can mean what I say, and I often say it mean. But and the reason why is because I'm afraid to have boundaries. I'm afraid to have boundaries. Because why am I afraid to have boundaries? Because I'm afraid you won't like me, he won't like me, they won't like me. Being true to yourself doesn't mean letting people walk on you. Being true to I mean, when you're true to yourself, it doesn't mean people will walk on you. It means when you're not being true to yourself. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
What this means is this: if there's someone doing something to me that doesn't feel right to me, that is the actual like prelude to a resentment. If I say no, thank you, that's okay. I'm not, you know, I don't want to have this discussion right now, or maybe we should take a moment. Whatever your boundary is in that moment, if you're saying it in a kind way and you're just protecting yourself, what you're also doing is protecting the whole situation. You're being the adult in the room.
Right.
What's going to happen is if you're not the adult in the room and you're having childlike reactions to an adult situation,
sure,
it's going to create resentments on both sides. So if we learn how to be that, you know, healthy, loving parent in a situation, then the resentments won't even come, actually, you know? And then, of course, there are things you can't change. There are powers you can't change. You know, there's things that happen. There's nothing you can do about it, you know?
Sometimes the forgiveness also doesn't have to mean there is no justice. I may not be, sometimes the person who has harmed you has to go to jail. That doesn't mean we don't have to forgive them. Right. I mean, we're devotees, if anybody. Like when devotees hold resentments, like, for example, sometimes people do horrible things, even in the name of religion. A lot of times in the name of religion, they do horrible things. Doesn't mean doesn't mean we don't forgive them. we still have to forgive, but they may not be able to, we may not allow them to practice their life near us, right? They may have to go to jail. They may have to pay something back.
Yes.
There may,
Yes.
there may be
Yes.
some legal consequences, but in my heart of hearts, I can't burn with that resentment towards them. I have to understand what went wrong, and I have to put up a fence around my house. That person's no longer in my life, but
Yeah.
God or the justice system is going to have to mete out their punishment. I don't always have to be the judge, the
The
prosecutioner,
enforcer. Yes.
right?
And the jury.
And
The judge and jury. Yeah.
I don't
the
have
judge
to
and
be that.
jury.
I can relieve myself from that.
No.
But you know,
Yeah,
sometimes
you can.
you hear devotees that just, or people practicing a spiritual path, and they just want to dig into these people forever. And the problem with that is we're devotees. If to the degree that we hold on to resentment, we're gonna hit a ceiling. We
Yes.
pray for people, even horrible people. We pray for their resurrection, but we don't hate them. We have to learn how to forgive people who've done even horrible things.
Absolutely. We hate the sin, don't hate the sinner.
We hate the sin and don't hate the sinner. Doesn't mean we have to invite crazy back into our
Yes.
life.
But this is the thing. This is exactly that. There are ways to forgive and have boundaries. There are ways. It can be both. You know, I have so much. You know, I used to have the only hate for pedophiles. I still get crazy. I don't want anyone like that near my family or anything else.
Sure.
However, if a pedophile came to me and asked me for help, I would be the first to help that person.
You know, that's a great one. That's a great one. It doesn't mean we can't. And it's never happened to me. I've never had that sexual trauma. It's very common. It's practically epidemic. I can't say if I would be in this type of clarity if that ever happened to my children or I found out about it. I'd probably lose my marbles and have to work this whole thing. But
From
in
jail,
principle, we have one job, and that's forgiveness. So if that happens, it have to be. They still have to do time. There still has to be some meted out justice, and they can no longer practice their lifestyle within. They can no longer be in my circle of friends if I'm running a temple.
Yes.
They're not welcome. They are not welcome.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean. I mean, we're devotees. We go to a prison. We go to prison. Christians go to prison. Devotees of Krishna go to prisons for a prison ministry. You know. And it's not like we say, okay, you're completely free of the murder you did, but it means we hold the sin and go right to the sinner, and we give them bhakti, and they still have to deal with what they're going through.
Raghu, the thing is, if all of us are capable just on a daily basis or just for an hour to keep God truly at the center, we keep Krishna truly at the center, things fall into perspective. If I look at my past, Raghu, if I look at all of the things I've done, I deserve no forgiveness. I deserve to be dead. I've done so much damage to other people, to my life. I have caused so much havoc in other people's lives. How dare I not want to forgive somebody else? How dare I? That's how I keep myself in check. Who am I? Who the hell am I? The biggest sinner of them all, the fallen. I am Jagai Madai. Who am I to not forgive someone else when I have gotten showers of mercy from God, from Krishna, from people who love me, who am I never to forgive somebody? That's another technique, or not even a technique. That's another perspective that I have on forgiveness. I've been forgiven. I've been forgiven, and not only forgiven, I've been showered with love and mercy.
I like that. I like that. And I like how you've flipped it from the victim to the victor. We're going to save some time for self-forgiveness. I'd like to close with that. But I also want to talk about, besides the idea of I forgive because it gives me serenity. I forgive because it's a poison that I'm drinking. Besides that, to zoom back even a little bit more, when I don't see Krishna's hand, God's hand, the universe's hand in what's happening to me, that's a type of atheism. That means it's just random cause and effect. No, we have a viewpoint that everything is happening to bring us somewhere higher. Everything is happening to us to bring us to a more evolved position in our existence. So it doesn't happen to me, it happens for me. That there is a loving benefactor behind what's going on. And in the thick of it, I can't see it, but it's real. That hand of God is real.
And he is our dear, dear friend.
And he's our dear friend. He's our dear friend. And that's a beautiful part of forgiveness as well. If you're going through it right now, it's hard to see it. But sometimes when we step back 5 years or 10 years or 3 years, we see, I'm glad I was laid off. I'm glad I lost that money. I'm glad. I'm glad because it brought me to this new stage in my spiritual evolution.
It's so true. It's so true. And it's so beautiful to hear that, because that has, the thing is, there's scripture, there's literature, there's all of these things. Now I am a neophyte, which means I can't intellectualize anything. I have to experience it. So spirituality for me is like an experience. So I have to experience what it feels like to get humbled. I need to experience what it's like to have these things happen to me. I need to experience these things in order for me to surrender. So yes, I am grateful for every freaking heroin that I put in my blood, all of the things that I've done in my life. I am full of gratitude. Really. I know this sounds insane.
It does sound insane.
But it's true.
It does sound insane, but it brought you to a place where you can relinquish that pain.
Absolutely.
Because why you're taking heroin in the first place is because you're covering some type of pain.
Absolutely. That was the solution. It wasn't the problem.
It's not just because it's addictive. It's not just because it's addictive. You're covering some type of hurt, some type of pain, something you can't face. And so for you, it manifested in heroin. For somebody else, it manifests in drugs or alcohol. For someone else, it manifests in shopping, overeating, sexual promiscuity.
Anything but the material me. Anything but the material me.
Anything but working out the knots in my mind. Yes. And what are the knots of the mind? It's everything we're talking about right now. It's the resentment I have for people who have harmed me. Or at least the way, because sometimes, sometimes people haven't harmed me, but I've interpreted it as that.
Oh, totally.
Because when I get good at resentment, then I look for resentment even when it's not there. Ever do that one? Where like person isn't even meaning to say something, but you take an offense as if you're looking to be offended. And you can create that mindset, and you're just looking to be harmed. You're cynical.
Just some sort of prejudice against somebody, like, oh, I see you. I know you're like a selfish kind of person. Like, oh, you're the, and then all of a sudden I'm in my head about how you've seen me do that. You're like, Jiva, stop. You've seen me do that.
I do sometimes.
You see me do that.
By the way, but you're beautiful enough to say, you know what? I see it. You have the ability to step back from it. But I could tell that you become a black belt at that at one point in your life.
Totally. Reading the room.
All right, so here is the $1 million pyramid here. People suffer tremendously, like tragically, with this idea of self-hate and self-forgiveness. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? When people come to you with their self-loathing, it's very hard to get a person out of this situation. Oftentimes, who knows what happened? There was no love when there should have been love. There was betrayal when there should have been support. Generally, at a very young age, before they were 8 years old, etc. How do you deal with people who are dealing with this self-loathing, lack of self-worth, even in their adult life, and they cannot subjugate these feelings? They keep coming forward. They keep dragging their past to the future. Do you run into that a lot, and how do you deal with it? And maybe that pain is the reason why. Maybe the pain is the reason why people are acting out. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's a very deep and many faceted question and answer. Let me start with shame and blame. And let me start with just, when we start letting things in this material world take a chunk out of us when we're small, it starts to become, it's like you said, we become good at it, and what do I do when people come to me? I can only say, I'm still getting out of that. There's still a lot of self-loathing. I mean, I'm Jewish, so that's like part of the thing, but like we have this self-loathing thing, going on. But all jokes aside, the self-flatulence, is that the word? No, flatulence. That's farting, isn't it? What is flatulence?
Farting.
Flatulating.
Yeah. Flagellating, flogging.
Flogging, flatulating, yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of thing I can be. That's what happens when you take the little.
I'm deep into flagellating.
Okay.
Okay. Continue on.
Like,
We've been pretty good with keeping this squirrel on track today. I just want to say that. Me and Jiva are like the maestro and the mistress of squirrels. So we are very, very good on track today.
Right. I think so too.
Right, continue on.
Coming out of deep hate. First of all, the very first thing that ever really helped me was being in a loving sangha. So we say in a program, and it really works for me, is that let us love you until you can love yourself. And being around people, and it's so important. If we can't do it, we need it artificially out of us. We need to get it from others, because we're telling ourselves a narrative about how horrible we are, or how shameful we are, or how embarrassed we are, or how whatever it is that kind of feeds into that hate. Hanging around with people like you, Raghu, in my life, who says, you're doing a great job, Jiva. Keep going. When Mara says, I love you, Jiva, I miss you, like all those things. If I surround myself, and that's the thing, if I personally surround myself in a sangha of people who are going to empower me, and I don't mean feed my ego or brush my ego. I mean, see who I am. And don't call me on my BS, and call me on my BS, and don't, but are empowering me and bringing out the good qualities, talking about those good qualities, and encouraging me to concentrate on those. Because it's like what I said yesterday, we can't fix a character defect with a character defect. I can't think my way out of self-loathing. I need mercy from devotees. I need mercy from people. I need mercy from people who are more experienced than I am. I need mercy from people who are my peers. I need mercy from people who are not my peers, but I need that mercy. If I don't have that, look who came. It's Kastuba. He's here. Hi. Mercy from people like Kastuba as well, people who are going to love me no matter what. And when I learn that, and when I can see that others can love me for no matter what it is and whatever character defect that I have, when I see that, I might be able to do that with myself. And then I do that with others. So it's reciprocal. And it's something that I can also only do with the mercy of God. There is no, and like I said, in the 6th and 7th step, where we ask God to remove these defects of character, and we ask for the willingness to do that, that anything is possible. And it's a process. It's again, not a magic wand. Bhakti is not a magic wand, and I'm not a magic wand, and the program is not a magic wand. We have to walk the walk and do the work.
What do they say? They say it works if you work it.
Yeah.
You're worth it. So, a very practical thing, which I think I learned from you also, was that self-worth, instead of the self-hate on the other side, the self-worth, first of all, comes from doing worthy things. If I'm using, so to speak, or quote, acting out on whatever your drug of choice is, you're not going to feel worthy. When you do things that harm your body, harm your mind, and harm your community, you're not going to have self-worth. That's just not, they don't go in hand. I can't
So
dump
true.
the
What a
water
great
out
point.
and expect there to be water in it. So worthy
Great point.
activities, right? I learn it from you. Worthy activities come from worthy behavior. Self-esteem comes from esteemable activities. So
Oh my God.
that's
Oh,
why
you need to label that. It's a good one,
it's a
Raghu.
good one. And and that's when you come into the Bhakti community, the 12-step community, a spiritual community. The threshold of it is, I'm going to cut out A, B, C, and D, and I'm going to add something positive. That's a big thing. Once I relinquish these things that I'm not going to feel good about doing, that relieves a lot of material misery right there. I start to feel
Oh my
better
gosh.
about myself.
Oh my
Right?
God, totally. Do you remember in Mayapur when you, myself, and Kastuba were in that room in Tara's house?
Yeah.
And I was upset about something. We were all talking.
Yeah.
And I looked at Kastuba and you, and I had tears in my eyes. And I said, my ceiling, Kastuba, is your floor. I don't think I'm capable of going even farther. And Kastuba looked at me and he said, and I said, do you think that I could go any farther? And he looked at me like, are you out of your mind, Jiva? You can go farther. That taught me, knowing that someone has faith in me, you have faith in me, Kastuba has faith in me, people in the BRG have faith in me, I've got people have faith in me. Knowing that teaches me something about love. And maybe it's like, oh, okay, you're just getting it from the outside. Yeah, it is like that for now. It is. And that's why in the program and in Bhakti, Sangha, devotees, compassion and love and empowerment from other devotees. That's how I learn how to also love myself. Exactly that.
Sure.
Like what I don't know. I have hit a ceiling in my own self-confidence. I need I need elders to tell me, no, you can go farther. No, you can go farther. I see this in you.
This is the beauty of friend, teacher, lover. To be the real
Yes.
friend, to be the real guru, to be the real friend, you have to see something in them that they can't see themselves. And they've been conditioned to think they are worthless. So you still have to do the work. You still have to show up. You still have to let go of A, B, C, and D. Those are the gross things. Then you have to share how you're feeling. That's the power of a 12-step thing. And that's the power of devotee association. You have to share where you're at and what you're struggling with. If you don't, you push it down, you create turbo scenarios in the mind.
And then comes the resentment. And then you're back to the resentment.
Yeah, you're back to the stinking thinking. Back to the stinking thinking. And then when you extend that hand to somebody else and see something good in them, when you feel that weakness, you feel like, that's right, there is potential here. And we see, everybody's got potential. We have a community that believes in people's potential. We don't condemn a person for what they've done. We don't even condemn a person for what they're doing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, not at all.
That's the beauty of a spiritual life. If you're on this path, you've got to extend that to other people because people have extended it to you. People have believed in us when we couldn't even believe in ourselves. So if we want this whole thing to flourish and grow and blossom, it means an extension of trust, seeing some greatness in somebody else that they can't even see in themselves. If I write them off as they're broken, they are diseased, they're criminal, they're cheaters.
We can do that ourselves, thank you. We can do that ourselves, thank you.
Right.
I can write myself off as broken. I can write myself off as, non-redeemable, done for. But because of people like you, like Kastuba, like all these other people, the program, and I've been doing this for 35 years. I don't mean the Bhakti part, but I've been doing this program for 35 years, which is Bhakti in its essence to a certain degree.
For sure.
And,
if we haven't worked on these things, we're going to bring it back to the beginning now. If we haven't worked on these things, I'm 59 years old. And if I've been hurt at 5 or 7 or 9, I've had that potato in the bag for 50 years, 55 years. Yeah, and it gets stinkier to the length I've had it in that bag. That's the problem. And it infects my whole consciousness. So sometimes it's going to take a little bit more work. That's why I'm glad you do what you do. I'm glad that you got the Bhakti recovery. I know you work with people privately, job. That's what you do. You're a therapist. By the way, you can put your contact on the board if people want to work with you personally. Because sometimes you do need a little bit more than a 12-step group or a circle. You need to work with one-on-one so you can go through
Yeah.
this potato that you've kept in the sack for so long that it's stinking up the entire house and your consciousness. So yeah, please put your contact. But we are running out of time. Then Mr. Kostuba is back tomorrow on the show. We're looking forward to seeing him. Thanks, everybody.
Me too.
Miss Mara, did you take away anything? We didn't get to the Bhagavatam. I saved the last verse for Kostuba for tomorrow.
Not tomorrow because tomorrow's Q&A.
Tomorrow's Q&A day.
Yeah.
Okay. But basically, that was a great way to wind up the chapter because it's a whole chapter of
On forgiveness.
how to deal with forgiveness, how to work through it, and how to approach a person that you've hurt. So, Mara, what do you got for us, please?
Hurt people, hurt people.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Before you resent, put yourself in their shoes.
Ooh.
That's a bit. Understand the backstory.
Have compassion and keep your side of the street clean.
Oh, yeah.
Have compassion.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Put down your bag of stinking potatoes.
Stink spuds.
Stink spuds. Our mantra will hit a wall unless you plunge your resentment.
Plunge your resentment.
Plunge your resentment.
Oh yeah, plunge like the
Yeah,
sink.
like the sink.
Yeah, the sink.
Plunge. Yeah, okay. I was like, what?
The sink will stay dirty.
Yeah.
Unless we plunge it. I like that better.
Okay.
Change it.
Take your own searching and fearless moral inventory, not someone else's.
There you go.
Take somebody else's inventory. Take your own moral and what is it? Moral? Searching and fearless moral inventory.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
Resentment is from my own lack of boundaries.
Oh my goodness, that is the truth right there in a pocket.
That's a good one.
Well, we let me just bring this up quick. I've been hurt at a very delicate time in my life. What does that got, at a time when I'm 7 years old, 6 years old? Why is that? What does that got to do with my lack of boundaries? Is it bringing?
Well, what happens is, so obviously you can't have those kind of lack of boundaries when you're 7.
Yeah.
But when you're older, first of all, it's our responsibility if we are hurt, no matter who's hurting. You know what? I'm going to end with this analogy. Okay.
Okay.
So when we're born, essentially, while we're growing up, our parents will leave shovels and shovels of waste in front of our door.
Dog crap. You've said this analogy for me. It's great. It's shovels and shovels of stool, of crap,
yes,
right on your doorstep. Right on your doorstep.
Exactly.
Your parents have left it for you. Go on.
Yeah, exactly. And every day you go out and you curse at it and it stinks and you don't want to have it in your door and you keep demanding, clean it up. You put this in front of my door. You clean it up. You clean it up. You clean it up. And of course, they're not going to clean it up. They're not going to clean it up. And you get more resentful and more angry and more angry. Well, let me tell you, you better start buying yourself a shovel and you got to start shoveling because no one's going to do it for you. No matter who left it there, no matter what happened, you got to clean it up. So while something is happening when you're 7, you need to be able to understand that your 7-year-old feelings, you need to say that those 7-year-old feelings are valid and you need to really take care of that inner child and have a lot of love and kindness and compassion for that part of you back then. But the adult has to come in now and start making adult decisions so that you don't repeat those immature decisions going forward with other people and other interactions of your life. Those things will follow you.
Shovel your crap. Write that down. Shovel your crap.
Yeah, shovel your own crap. Buy yourself a shovel and shovel the crap.
Okay. Continuing on, Miss Mara. That was beautiful, by the way.
Yeah. Don't let the justice side of our mind cheat us out of serenity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say what you mean what you say, but don't say it mean.
Boom.
Thanks, Nancy.
Yeah.
Well.
Forgive and hold boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Do worthy things to build self-worth. And There's no magic wand of forgiveness.
It's practice.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for all these great reminders, Jiva. It's been great to have you in the last couple days.
Thank you for inviting me. Super, super grateful. I'm so grateful to you. I'm so grateful to this community. I'm grateful to everyone.
Everybody
fully
sign
glad
up,
to be
follow Bhakti Recovery. Can you get it on YouTube as well?
Yeah, there's some YouTube.
Okay,
It's not
go to
like-
YouTube, follow, like, subscribe, comment,
Yes.
and we'll welcome you back to Stuba.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. I love you guys. I love you guys so much.
Thanks, Jiva. And Jiva's going to do a retreat this year at the farm, and she's
Yeah.
coming to the West. From Germany, she's going to come to the States.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to arrange also another little weekend, like
There you go. If you're
weekend
in a
workshops, please get in touch with me.
I
If
think
you're
she's going to be in Philly too, right?
She's going to be in Philly. She's going to be at Super Soul Farm. She'll be in New York. If anyone wants to arrange something for her, please reach out. Please put your message, your contact on the board again. Check out Bhakti Recovery Podcast. Remember, me and Lori Pagger doing a retreat at Super Soul Farm on
July 18th.
July 18th. And of course, we have wonderful Mika Stuba, Miss Mara. We've got our Wisdom of the Sages retreat happening Memorial Day weekend. Hope to see you there. There's Kostuba. Let's unmute Kostuba. He's rocking his chair. He's in his back in his rocking chair.
Back.
What's up, my brother?
Just got in.
Look at you, back in New York City.
Yeah.
How was your flight? How are you
Not looking
feeling?
tired.
Uneventful, for the most part.
Well, we missed you. We missed you. We left you one final verse
Okay.
before we dive in.
Give me one final verse of the chapter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we stopped. We should have finished it, but we didn't. We
Okay.
went off on our beautiful, we won't call them squirrels. We'll call them
Relevant,
Please.
everyday relativity.
yes. Yeah. We went off on a bilby. Remember bilbies?
No.
Little marsupials, my friend. Little marsupials. All right, you guys. Thanks. It is a beautiful day. Every beautiful day. Tarun comes home today. My little 11-year-old. Looking forward to seeing him. Kostuba, it snowed in New York City. It was beautiful yesterday. You could have bike ride. You could have swam. Today we got 3 inches of snow outside.
No snow
Oh
here.
my goodness. Did it snow there in the city? Did it snow?
No, it's not
No,
here.
it's not snow.
Everything's totally covered. All right, guys. Beautiful day.
Hello.
Love
Let
y'all.
the magic continue to
Welcome
flow.
home.
And a maha. Beautiful.